welcome everybody to the next instalment of printmaking in the kitchen. Today we're going to look at doing some screen printing. Now screen printing is the third of the series that we're doing. We're going to use a frame, which is just an old picture frame, to make a screen, and we find some material that we can use. It has to be really see-through, see quite clearly through it with no blockages in the weave. The sheerer it is, usually the better that it will be to print with. So a bit of curtaining is what I've got. The first thing you need to do is cut your fabric to sit onto, or to fit the size of your frame. So if we make sure we've got plenty of hold on, because we're going to stretch this fabric over the frame. So make sure you've got plenty of room. The best way I find to cut it to size is to just do a little snip and rip. That rips along the grain of the fabric, so you know that you've got the grain of the fabric going exactly horizontal and vertical. Okay, then you've got a light flat. Make sure all the little hairy bits on the side are gone, because you don't want them to get stuck in what you're doing. So just get the little pieces of fabric that come off when you're ripping, get rid of those. Right, you need a hammer. You need a stapler or a staple gun. Now staplers will work, but a staple gun is better, it's a lot stronger. So if you do have a staple gun, use that. If not though, I have done this with just a stapler. You place your frame right in the centre of your fabric. Make sure you have got it really square. Okay. Now what we need to do is to get this stretched over the frame so it is really tight in all of the places on the screen. So we start in the middle and on the longest end. So if we start right in the centre, try it with the stapler. All you need to do is press, do a cut, make sure it's sort of stretched across a little. And with a stapler you will need to hammer it in before you go any further. Staple guns tend to be a lot stronger, so I'll use that, and they are quicker, so I'll use that from here. Now, make sure the distance here is even all the way along. We want it to be exactly against the grain and stretch it right across. Keep the pressure on. If it doesn't look like it's gone right through, they have, but just give it a little tap and keep that. Once you've done one side, do the next, pull it across nice and tight, and staple it. Okay, enough there. Right, that can be a bit there. Once you've done one side, flip it round, put it again really flat, and this is where the hard bit starts. You have to do, that's hooked up underneath with the little bits of the hairy cotton. Okay. Start in the middle, make sure it's really central, and this is where you've got to get it as tight as you can do it. So I use the frame itself as a bit of a lever and staple. There. Once you've done a couple in the centre, again, put it a little bit across as you go, just put a little bit of pressure on the diagonal and staple, then go to the corner and again press right on the corner so that you're stretching from the centre all the time. And pull and staple. Okay, in the other corner. As tight as you can and staple. Don't pull and staple all the way. One's a little high. Okay. You can feel that's nice and tight, but it isn't stretched this way yet, so that's our next trick. You need to just pull it across a little bit for the first end because you want it to be evenly square. in the centre first, then pull over to the corner, over to the other corner, and just pull it all the way along so that the fabric grain is exactly square along that. Then, nice and tight for the other side. So in the middle first, pull tight as you can, nice and firmly, into the corner, and again. You keep going, so you stretch it across both sides, starting in the middle and then working towards the outside. The other side's still doing. Turn around, stapled in the middle, stretch it across to the corner, always stretching from the centre line. And then stretch as tight as you can. Okay, once you've done that, you should be able to feel it. That's really nice and tight, all the areas, even in the corners. Then just tidy up the corners. I just fold them over and over and put a staple across. Just to keep those corners out of the way. You can put a couple of staples if you need to. Pair of pliers, so if you've got one that's changed, you know, that one needs to staple that corner again. And then the corner. And that in. Once you've done that, got it all finished, you grab your scissors again and trim the fabric back so that you've got it just where the timber is and not hanging over the edges. Okay. Then what I usually do now is grab some tape and tape off just inside so that the dye or the paint or whatever you're using doesn't go inside the screen, and that way you can use your screen again and again if you wash it, and just put a nice little edge in through there, protect your screen a little bit. You can also put the tape on the outside as well, so that it meets up and that just protects it. So I would normally put more tape there, but just for the sake of getting this done and finished, the demonstration, I'll leave that at that for now. And move it across. So your screen is ready. We'll put it aside. The next thing you need to do is do your stencil. So the idea is, we recap on the design process. You do a design that you can cut out of paper now or contact. Now that's the one we started with, which was a bowl of spaghetti. We changed it to line work, and that's the adjusted one that we did. Very chunky, very thick. You need for screen printing to design it so that you don't have any floating shapes. And if you have a look at this design, all of the inside shapes are joined to the outside of the letter with a little strip of white. Now we're going to print the black, so what we need to do is cut anywhere that's black out of a piece of paper so that they are whole. So I'll put this behind it and you can see what I mean. Okay. So the dye goes through the holes and onto your paper, your fabric at the bottom. So the idea is to do a design where all of these pieces in the middle are joined to the outside. So that's the challenge for designing for screen printing. You do it into the middle of a big sheet of white paper, the bigger the better. Get your Stanley knife and you have to cut out the Stanley knife. Now what you do is make sure you put your hand in above the Stanley knife as you're cutting, and your left hand, or your normal hand of writing, is the one that you use. You put that above the stencil knife. If it's tearing, you have either got your stencil knife held like that and it'll rip, or you need a sharper blade. So here we go, we've cut out those shapes. There's my design in there that we're going to print. Yeah, so I have my stencil. So that's the second part, is getting your stencil done and cut out. Now to print, you need your stencil, you need a wad of paper, you need an area protected. This is very messy. Stencil knife away, and these are. Okay, you need a squeegee or something to actually pull the die across the screen. Now if we have a look, what we're going to do is we have our paper to print on here, or fabric. It goes down on top of the wad of paper. Your stencil's going on top of that. Your screen will go on top of that. You put the die on and draw it across using a squeegee like this. Or if you don't have a squeegee, anything that's hard but still will bend and have a bit of flex to it, I'm going to try it with a set square. It would have to be that way, but do it like that. You need dye or paint. Now paint will work on paper obviously, but if you're doing it on fabric, I can't think of any substitute just for a dye that you can buy for this. Right. Other than house paint, and I don't know how to go at house paint. Okay, you need a washer, a wet washer, there and ready, because if you get any spillages or any dye or paint on your hands, you're going to have to wash it off before you do the printmaking. You get anything you're going to print on ready to go. A t-shirt, I am going to print on this t-shirt. Make sure you have paper in the centre of your t-shirt, not just underneath it, but if you print on the top and you don't have the paper in the centre, stretched out, so we'll put it sideways so that it stretches your shirt or keeps your shirt nice and flat. And when you rub your hands on, it should feel really flat. Also be careful of where you're going to print it, because you don't want to have it print down low and have it come out on your stomach. Okay, so we have our stencil. We have paper to print on here. We have anything else we're going to print on lined up, ready to go. So I have a couple of different things to print on here. Make sure it's nice and flat. We get the newspaper on the inside, so there's no creases or folds. You can see a fold there, that will print. You're going to pull it out so that's really flat. Get the arms out the way so that when you put it down, they're not going to get in the way. This one's already laid out nice and flat, and I have another one behind. So I have all of the things you're going to print out ready to go. Now, I always print on paper first so that I can do a trial one, especially with the new screen. So we're ready to start. The first thing is to put your stencil onto the screen. Now if you have a look through that, you can see it doesn't quite fill up the whole screen, so you're going to have to cover that with some paper. So if we have some sheets of scrap paper, strips, and they have to be covered. It's a little bit of sticky tape to stick your stencil down, just so that it doesn't move for a start. You can cut your stencil out of contact, or simply paste or stick your contact then onto the screen, and that is one way of getting past the laying out stage a little bit easier. More yet. I think I'll use a piece of this paper. There we go. So you make sure that the whole bottom of the screen is covered except for where the holes are on your stencil. And then overlap that too, brilliant. Okay, your stencil's now ready to print. The only thing showing through that is what I'm going to print, and you should see it the right way up. When that's done, you put this, lie that onto your paper. Now this is the tricky bit. You have to make sure you've got that centred exactly on the area you're going to print. Put your hands over it, you can feel it nice and flat. Sometimes it helps just to put a little registration mark, to a dot or something on one of the letters so you know exactly where you've got to go. You need your dye of paint here ready, so just check your area before you start. You've got your stencil sitting underneath your screen, and on your paper you've got your t-shirts or your paper or your fabric ready to print on for the next ones. Everything's set out. You have your washer ready, you've got your dye ready with your spoons to dish your dye out. So I'm just going to do the first one in black because that will give me an idea on what to do. You get a big blob, and you don't actually put it where the holes are, you put it along the top. Now it doesn't matter if you put too much because you can just lift it up afterwards. The idea is, you get your squeegee. If you have one, squeegees are always better, and you just have to hold it down. If you have someone to help, that will be much better. I don't, so I'm doing this myself. And you just draw it across your fabric. Once you've drawn it across once, you lift it up. Now have somewhere to put that somewhere aside, and you can check to see if that's actually printed on your paper. And okay, printed quite well. It's not centered properly. As you see, I've missed the paper a little bit, so that's really important. It's a bit easier to do when it's a t-shirt, so let's try on the t-shirt. Okay. Lift the sides up with it, and it's going to go right way up, probably. Yes. Line it up really carefully so it's in the middle, and so the words on either side. And that's straight. Okay, everything flat. Yeah. Right, same thing. Still got some dye on there. We probably don't need a huge amount more. You put it on. Let's try it with my set square and see how that works. So you just do the same thing. Just push through. Make sure you spread it across first. You should be able to see the outline of it there. Oops. Right. Put it aside. And just check now that it has come up on your print. Once you've done one, you can move on to the next. On the way there. Be really careful when you're lifting these because it's very easy to rub it, but you can see there, the print works quite well. Now I'm going to keep printing, but as soon as you finish printing, the screen and your squeegees and things go straight out to get washed. If you leave any dye dry in the screen, it'll wreck it forever. If you wash it out straight away, you can use it time and time again, even these. Alright, I'm going back to my squeegee. Same again. works quite well. Next. Okay. Okay, thank you for your time. Good luck with your printing. And we'll see you next time for, I think it is lithography next. Thank you. Bye.